If you want any of your favorite streamers, content creators, whatever, to react to this, send them the video like I always.
Hey, free content boys! Hello there and welcome to another fantastic video. Today we're gonna be reacting to a video by Rurikhan. Some of you guys have been telling me about it and I had a look at it and I thought that it would be worth putting my 2 cents in some parts of it because the video is 36 minutes long. God damn. I won't cover everything that Rurikhan says, obviously. I'm not really good with sort of reporting on other people's opinions, and I'm dipping my toes in some dangerous territory because I'm mostly a comedy, waifu, Monster Hunter based channel. I don't really delve much into the more serious quote-unquote or like relevant topics in Monster Hunter. Not because I'm afraid of it, but purely because I think that there's so many people that put their opinions out there that I sometimes struggle with projecting my own, if that makes sense. But there are some things in this video that I agree with, disagree with, and I would like to just quickly brush over his video with a very thin opinion brush. This metaphor makes no fucking sense. And just kind of give you my 2 cents on some things that I have already been thinking about for a while and that I just love to talk about.
So a couple of days ago, I put out a tweet that said shockproof is the worst decoration ever made.
Okay, maybe not the worst decoration ever made, but I'm pretty sure that Rurikhan is just being like, is probably just a joke. I mean, when I think about shockproof and its purpose of completely denying friendly damage, I just think that if I started and this was an option, because I started with world, right? I'm a 5th leader. Had I started then and this was an option, then I perhaps would have never discovered the incredibly fun, like bro, accidentally finding out that your greatsword main friend can just send you into the air so that you can do aerial attacks and cause mounting damage was one of the best memories I've ever had in Monster Hunter. Later on, I'm going to be talking about it a bit more and as to why, like, I perhaps don't agree with the skill and perhaps I think it's a little overkill because, you know, you could always just get brace level 1 and, you know, reposition a little bit.
I find restocking to be a key aspect that kind of separates Monster Hunter from, say, a boss fight rush game, where you're just like rushing through, killing bosses. The thing that separates Monster Hunter from that genre of game is precisely the preparation aspect, the scavenging aspect. We're actually scavenging and foraging for materials and all of that stuff. And as a matter of fact, it created some pretty memorable moments for myself as a newcomer. Not really as a newcomer. I'd been playing the game for a while, but I'd just never been particularly good before I actually started playing World because I couldn't really create content around the game, and Japan would get the game early. You guys know how that stuff used to work back in the day.
Alright, so here Rurikhan kind of goes on to explain how he isn't necessarily a fan of restocking, and this is where my opinions kind of differ. Now, let me preface this by saying that I don't use restocking. Unless I'm in a multiplayer hunt and I'm streaming and barely paying attention to the gameplay, I never use it. I'm the kind of guy who, even in World, I just kind of wanted to be completely prepared for the hunt before I even set out of the hub. That means I had to eat, I had to check my gear, I had to check all of my items, and only then, when I was fully satisfied, I would leave. And this is me fully aware of the fact that I can eat in the camp, or that I can restock my potions in the camp, or all of the above. But there's just a specific aspect of it that actually helped me when I went back to GU, when you just can't go back to your camp to restock. And if I have to be honest, I understand why people could be displeased with the fact that you can just fully access your whole inventory whilst you're out on the field, because it can make you a little bit less cautious in the hunt. After all, why care about how many potions you're using if you can just go back to camp and restock them all? You can argue that yes, there is a limit, but let's be real, you will never run out of potions in a Monster Hunter game. Like, that's very difficult. I think limiting your resources, especially when it comes to health pots, can be a really good skill, and it can make you more aware of what the monster is going to do, and you can actually improve in the hunt by just being limited as to what you can bring with you. However, I don't agree with the fact that it should be removed. And this is a bit of an odd one because I'm kind of speaking for a part of the player base that isn't necessarily me. What I mean by this is, just like I said, when I go out on the hunt, I make sure that before I go out, I have everything. I play it old style, even though I started with World, even though I was completely aware of the fact that I could restock and everything. Ooh, that was a voice crack. I already started with this particular habit of just always making sure that I was ready before I even set foot out. But I do know that when you're a new player, this can actually be a very helpful feature. And I also am aware that for particular types of gameplay, this could potentially work. Like, gunners have to bring a lot on board to craft ammunition on the spot, and I think that sometimes this feature could be more beneficial to them. This is a point in convenience that I think is very optional, and I think that, yeah, you can be the person that constantly goes back to camp to restock, but if that eventually annoys you, you're just going to improve to the point where you don't have to. Because at the end of the day, right, when I think about it from the sense of convenience, it doesn't really bother me that for instance, in GU, if I forgot to bring cold potions or hot potions, I can literally just quit the quest, go back, and it adds a whopping 45 seconds onto my gameplay time. I do see Rurikhan's point because I don't use it myself, so I don't think I would miss it if it was gone. In fact, most of the friends that I play with, I don't think anyone would really care if restocking intents was gone. But I can see how this could potentially damage new players and perhaps even certain playstyles, like I said before, the ones that are heavily reliant on items. Perhaps I could be completely wrong. I don't know. It's just my first opinion on this.
It'd be so frustrating that a paintball would run out and I would be, oh my god, I don't know where the monster is now. And then there would be mechanics around that, like you have the balloon guy, which you would be in certain maps, and once per map he would give you the location of the monster in case you lose track of it, so you'd actually wave at the balloon guy and he'd be like, the monster's over there, and then you have to go and, you know, find the monster and do all of that stuff. And these are things that I personally miss. It's the preparation aspect, the scavenging aspect, these whole mechanics that are not directly tied to just fighting the monster.
This is a point where Rurikhan and I'm pretty sure that most of the people in my community completely agree. Monster Hunter is first and foremost a hunting game. It's not a boss fight simulation game where you just keep going against the bosses all the time and you keep ramping those kills up. A really good hunter will not only be a proficient user of their weapon of choice, they will also be very aware of the monster's moveset. They will also be aware as to what armor skills they can bring in, but most importantly, they will also be extremely efficient at making sure that they are aware of the monster's location. Tracking is very important, and therefore this is something that people should perhaps think a bit about more when they talk about stuff like what would we want in Monster Hunter 6. I find it a pity that even if you haven't fought the monster yet in Rise, you just have their location pinged on the map. Like, they're right there. They're not, there's no way that you don't know where they are. And I understand that some people might say, oh, but it's so annoying that like in GU, you have to go around and look for the monster and such. But this is where stuff that I was talking about in terms of knowledge kick in and prove that you're a better hunter. The example that Rurikhan gave in Monster Hunter GU is exactly what I was going to say, which is that if you are out in the field and you see this big airship balloon with like a giant telescope pointing at you, you can wave at it with the wave gesture and it will ping the monster's location there and then. That way you know exactly where the monster is to start with. And by hunting the monster enough times in specific maps, you know exactly what areas they can be in. You can know, oh, if there's a monster in this area, then I'm pretty sure this monster is going to be in this other area. Oh, the monster is limping. I know it's not going to go to the area next to this one. It's going to go back to its nest. These are things that might seem silly to you, but at the end of the day, they prove incredibly useful when the monster's location just isn't available on your HUD 24/7. And these are things that I miss, and these are things that I think could be extremely well implemented in Monster Hunter 6. I know not a lot of people are fans of the scout flies from World and Iceborne, but I actually thought that they were a pretty okay tracking system. You would essentially have to find these clues that the monsters have left behind, be it scratches or whatever else you could find, and the more you search the monster in a specific area, you would eventually reach the point where you could just enter a quest and you know what they would be. This is a system that I find, you know, it's pretty good because it rewards hunters that like hunting the specific monsters or have to grind some specific monsters, and it rewards you by giving you a higher research level. Maybe I'm in the minority, maybe people just don't like tracking the monster, but again, tracking is an essential part of hunting.
I believe that this was before the release of Rise. We're removing hot and cold drinks from the game. Now, these were still present in Monster Hunter World and Iceborne. And basically, for those of you that are not aware, maybe you started playing Monster Hunter on Rise, so you don't know about these things, so I'll explain to you how they work. The way that it works is whenever you're in a hot zone, like, say, a desert or a lava cavern or something like that, only if you're in the specific zone that is hot. So, like, say, if you're outside the lava caverns, should be fine. If you're inside the lava caverns where there's actually lava around places, you would be required to drink a cold drink. Otherwise, your hunter would start taking burn damage because he was too hot.
I agree to a certain extent. So I wouldn't like to see the plain old hot drink, cold drink system come back, but I would like an improved version of the system. I think it does add a nice layer of realism and immersion when you're in a really hot area and you have to cool your body down because humans aren't supposed to be tolerating that temperature. And the same applying to cold temperatures. You gotta, get yourself that nice hot chocolate to keep yourself nice and toasty. You can argue that like, oh, but come on, like if you're in a volcano, is drinking some ice water really gonna help? I know Monster Hunter has like biological reasons for everything. Like monsters don't use magic. They don't just spit fire because it's magical. They have like organs in their bodies and shit that develop their biology and whatnot. But I think cold and hot drinks could be really beneficial. Picture it as this. You have the base healing potion and then you can craft it into a mega healing potion and then you can have an ancient potion or max potions. I would like to see something similar with hot and cold drinks. The plain old versions of them just seem a little lackluster in my opinion. Even when I'm playing GU, I was like, I wish I could just customize them in one way or the other by having not necessarily just like a lab, just a place where you could perhaps combine them with honey to maximize their potency or increase the time that you can have them. Maybe even mix them together for specific environments. Maybe if you mix this particular type of herb with with a cold drink, then you can get something that prolongs its period or buffs your ice resistance against those monsters. You see, like, there is actual ways that it could be implemented in a fun, customizable, and interactive way. Again, I could just be the minority that was happy when Iceborne implemented hot drinks. I thought that was cool to be in the Hoarfrost Reach and just have to, chug a nice little hot drink so that you can go out and hunt in the nice cold waters and shit. I don't know. I just think it would be neat.
It's one of those things that we're sacrificing in terms of convenience, which is one of the things that I would consider to be a core aspect of Monster Hunter, because it adds immersion. It's like, oh, my hunter is in a hot area. I need to drink a cold drink to make up for the fact that I'm in this hot area. It adds immersion. It makes me feel like I'm a part of the world. Like I can't just walk into a place that's surrounded by burning lava.
There's one thing about Monster Hunter that I think people perhaps either misinterpret or just don't fully understand. You're not the star of this game. Monster Hunter is primarily a game about the monsters and the ecosystems that they exist in. Like, yes, humans have the guild and technically speaking we have raised society, but look at what happened with the Citadel. Two monsters having a brawl was enough to wipe out an entire civilization in essence, and it's just, that's the point that you gotta understand. It's not about you. This is their world and you just so happen to live in it. So if you're gonna live in their world, why not just not make everything possible to make you feel a little bit more immersed?
There's this mentality of over-optimization to the level of MMOs nowadays. Like, in case you guys aren't aware, this is the mentality of an MMORPG player. Like, whenever you are fighting a boss, you need to make sure that you optimize your uptime. You need to be dealing damage at all times to make sure that your DPS comes out properly on the DPS meters. And it just kind of sucks to see that mentality really, jumping into Monster Hunter to the level that it has. I have nothing against competitive speedrunning and all of that stuff. Quite the opposite. I learn a lot from speedrunners in terms of the skills that they use, or even the weakness, not the weakness of monsters, but like the openings of monsters that they'll explore.
This is a really good point. Monster Hunter isn't a competitive natured game. It's not about who can kill the monster the fastest, although that is kind of like the norm of it dictating how good you are at the game, right? If you can kill the monster faster, that means you either are really good at the game or you're just using a bowgun. No, for real though, like a lot of people have this pressure, right? Because in my channel, I have this thing where I say, I want to hunt the monsters that I like under 10 minutes, no matter how hard the quest might be. And when I first scored a Risen Crimson Glow under 10 minutes on stream, people were like, oh, I can't do that, and it makes me feel a bit bad about myself. And that's the kind of thing that can happen in terms of a negative aspect coming from a extremely competitive mindset in a primarily not competitive, cooperative experience. And if you want me to be honest, the game being faster and more convenient just makes speedrunning less and less impressive. Now, I'm not a speedrunner. I'm no incredibly good player of the game. I'm decent at best, but I'm just way more impressed to see speedruns in games like GU and World than say in Rise. And that is because they had to go over these hurdles and these inconveniences in an even more efficient way than your average hunter. Again, it goes back to the whole what makes a good hunter. Is it just about the right move at the right time, or is it about learning when this opening is going to be there, why this opening is there, learning about which part of the environment could be favorable to your hunt? It's about knowing where the monster will be from the get-go because you've done it so many times. I remember someone told me a while back that they wanted the new Monster Hunter game to have these customizable camps like they do in Wild Hearts, where you can kind of like put a camp right next to a popular area for a specific monster, right? And I just can't help but think that that would be incredibly boring. Like just having a hunter pop out of a tent in a speedrun video and the monster is literally just outside. For me, it would break the immersion because like, are you serious? This apex predator is looking at my little house in front of him and he's just gonna ignore me? Like, yeah, sure thing. But to reiterate, I do feel like a lot of people feel like the competitive speedrunning aspect of Monster Hunter is the norm, when in reality, it really isn't. Because this is where stuff like shockproof comes into place, right? You can remove all the damage, all the staggers that your allies can inflict upon you, and vice versa. Is it really worth it to cut 20 or 30 seconds or maybe even a minute from a hunt rather than perhaps have one of your buddies like launch you into the air by accident and have a laugh about it because you panicked and attacked midair and you mounted a monster? Like, I'm just saying, it just seems like fun is starting to be put to the side because convenience, quote unquote, is being prioritized.
I think that the overabundance of convenience that we've got, that we basically call quality of life, is something that is becoming subtractive of the core fundamentals of Monster Hunter.
I think this is a beautiful way to sum it up, and I can even just say that you can see this with like endgame skills, like Heaven Sent, I think that's what's called. I don't like using it purely because as a Gunlance player, I no longer have to control my sharpness, I no longer have to control my shells or my worm stake. Like, the only thing it doesn't do is replenish my Wyvern Fire. That's removing like 4 different mechanics from the fucking weapon. It just makes it so much simpler, it becomes boring. And as someone who constantly cries about, you know, oh, Gunlance needs to be better, they have to find ways to like get Elemental Shell back in or giving my guard point from GU back in, I don't think this is the solution at all. It's kind of like the same thing as Longsword, and I should have Longsword a lot, but during World and Iceborne, I actually played quite a bit of Longsword, and I find the Longsword there to just be more fun purely because it was riskier. Like, I'm sorry, but Special Sheaf combos in Rise are just so fucking easy, and they have barely, if any, repercussions at all if you miss. Oh, you missed one? You can just go straight into the other. Oh, but Ark, that's more convenient. I know, it's more convenient, but it takes a lot of risk and management and thought process behind the weapon play, and that just makes it a bit more boring in my opinion. It feels like you're always fighting, you're always hunting, you're never taking the time to sit back and do something else. Oh, but Ark, isn't that good? It means that you're maximizing the time for the grind. But then it just makes the grind a little bit more draining. I just think back to how it was being in somewhere like the Celiana Gathering Hub. It was huge. You had these like sort of hot springs where you could fuck around with your friends and splash water and stuff, and you could spend some nice cute little time with your palicos. And then you also had your rooms, which you could, you know, go around in the world and gather these like pets to decorate your room. And then some of these endemic life species you could only find in specific areas of specific maps. Others were like a bit more general, you could find them in pretty much every map. And these are the things that I'm talking about. Like, this was fun downtime activity. I remember my friends in Monster Hunter World, we used to go around all these maps going, this pet that you have in your room, I want to find it. I want to find it in the Coral Highlands and bring it back to my room. I want to do that. And like the amount of time that I spent fucking around with like arm wrestling or getting my hunter drunk just to, you know, just to fuck around. It was unforgettable, and I feel like all of that just not being in Rise and Sunbreak is a shame. I know it's intentional, and I know that with Rise and Sunbreak they basically said, how fast can we go? And I totally appreciate that. It's such an amazing game, and they did improve in combats in regards to, you know, combat in Rise and Sunbreak is better than in World and Iceborne in my opinion. But it comes at that entire aspect of downtime, and it's not necessarily just about, you know, messing about with your friends. It's about tracking the monster, taking time to invest time into this particular monster that you're grinding so that you can get rewarded for it, because it really is just go into the map, you know where the monster is, get to the close to the monster as possible. Maybe you have to go gather some spirit birds, or if not, you're just in an arena. Go beat the monster up straight away. What's the deal? And you can say that, you know, oh, but arena quests have never, you know, have always been there. What's the problem? I don't see your point. It feels like the arena quests have become the norm, because even in the regular maps, you just get to the monster so fast and you don't really have to do anything else to track them down. You know where they are from the get-go. I feel like it's very interesting to see how the opinions of someone who has been playing Monster Hunter for a much longer time and someone who only started recently in the 5th gen actually line up in terms of taste. But you know, that's what it comes down to. Rurikhan's taste just so happens to match mine, just like it matches a lot of the people in my community, and that's fine if it doesn't. Like, disagreeing isn't a bad thing. We can disagree but still enjoy the same thing. That's not a problem at all. Don't think that there's anything that he has said that I could really go, you know, I don't know. I totally don't agree with that. I think he's wrong.
I hope that Monster Hunter 6 is a little bit more grounded, even if I have to lose Blast Dash.
Okay, yeah, nope, I disagree. Nope, fucking what?